the Oklahoman newsroom. This is an OU update. I'm Jenny Carlson here in studio with part of our OU coverage team, columnist Barry Trammell, OU beat writer Brooke Pryor. Guys, we're here to break down the OU spring game Saturday afternoon in Norman. It's going to be a busy day, lots going on, starting with the Bob Stoops statue dedication, but then a lot going on in the stadium, Brooke. Ultimately, there will actually be a spring game that kicks off about 1:15 is the plan. But a big schedule. What all is at play here in terms of having a day where you've got a spring game, but you've got so many other things going on?
Well, first of all, my advice would be dress warmly. The high on Saturday is going to be 49 degrees. It's going to be windy. We're in Oklahoma, of course it's going to be windy. But as far as the slate of activities go, there's the sale, like the spring sale at McCaslin Fieldhouse early in the morning. Then you've got Fan Fest starting to open up, I think at maybe 9:30 or so, with food trucks and a whole bunch of other activities. And then you've got the Bob Stoops statue dedication at 10. And then at some point, we don't know exactly when this is going to happen, but students will have an opportunity, A, to try to kick a 20-yard field goal to have Lincoln Riley pay for one semester of their tuition. Also, a student will be able to race Marquise Brown, and I think they get a 20-yard advance on him. They get a little bit of a head start. And then, as was just announced today, 3 random fans will have a chance to be called out of the stands to call 3 plays during the spring game, I would assume during the first half when it's going to look like a scrimmage. So there's a lot of things. Oh, and of course Trace Adkins is playing. How can we forget? Trace Adkins is having a pregame concert. All of that happening before any football is actually played. So it's a big day. It's a big production. OU trying to pull out all the stops to get as many fans as possible at Owen Field.
Barry, what do you make of all this? I mean, this is a spring game day unlike anything we've ever seen at Oklahoma. And frankly, anything that I can remember happening at any of the schools around here. What do you make of all of this?
Well, I mean, the recruiting calendar has changed, and you know, they got a bunch of big-time recruits coming in, and they want to create as much revelry and fire as they can, and just whatever, you know. Spring football is a tough sell, even in Oklahoma, and you know, the games over the course of 10, 15, 20, 30 years have changed to the point where it's not great football to watch. You have to be a hardcore fan to really get excited about seeing receivers run routes and the technique of rush-ins, which is really what it comes down to. There's not a ton of great tackling and great blocking. So it's not a great product, but you know, the recruits are going to be there. Someone told me today that 3 of the top 5 receivers in America for the coming high school senior class are going to be in Norman Saturday. So they want to create as much revelry, and they're doing whatever they can to get the stadium filled. And you know, generally on April 14th, you can count on the weather being pretty warm, and not even the weather's cooperating. So it's going to be cold. So that's what's going on. And you know, if they change the recruiting calendar back, and we'll go back to the old days where the hardcores will come and we won't have to worry about it.
What is the sense of what the impact is going to be on all this, Brooke? I mean, I guess we don't know until we see the crowd there on Saturday, but you know, what will all this matter? Do you get the sense like fans are sort of getting fired up about this, or is it all just kind of, you know, going over people's heads?
You know, I don't know that it's going over people's heads, and it's tough to get a real gauge because on Twitter you hear people that are really passionate one way or the other, and those are the folks that I've heard from the most. Obviously, there's a camp of people that as soon as the Trace Adkins concert was announced, people said, heck no, I'm not going to go to this. Why would I spend my money to go see Trace Adkins? He hasn't been relevant in years. On the other side, you have people saying, I love Trace Adkins, this guy's awesome. How great is it to be able to watch him play right before we watch a football game? You know, they're going all in on it. OU is hoping that it does have a big impact. You know, I talked with Joe Castiglione, the athletic director, a couple days ago, and he said that the spring game this year will cost the university $200,000 more than it usually costs to put it on. So that's a pretty big amount to put on this whole production. But he said as far as ticket sales go, if they continue to trend the way that they were trending last week, they'll be able to make their money back. According to him, the spring game is not supposed to be a money-making endeavor. It's supposed to be kind of this open house effect, and that's something that OU is working toward in the future. Having a full weekend, having a chance to show off the campus for people that maybe don't get to come during the fall, for prospective students, for prospective players, just trying to make it big, welcome, this huge event. And oh yeah, by the way, a football game is also played.
Barry, if you were in Joe Castiglione's position or Lincoln Riley's position, and there were all these different pieces to this puzzle, would there come a point where you just say, let's put out the all call to fans and say, we want to fill this place because this is a big recruiting weekend. Make it a very simple pitch to people. I understand trying to hit a lot of different notes here, but if you tell Oklahoma fans they can play a part potentially in recruiting, couldn't that be enough to make this all work?
Well, I think they're shooting for a home run. I think they're trying to get 80,000 at Owen Field, and that's a tall order. I think to get 80,000 people to a spring game, it's got to be all hands on deck. So I understand what they're doing. If you just said, listen, we want to match Alabama and we want to match Ohio State, everybody show up Saturday, I think some would respond, but you're not getting 80,000. You're going to have to recruit and entice people in a lot of different ways. So is what they're doing going to work? No, because of the weather, if no other reason. Was it a good idea to try? Sure. Did they make some missteps? I don't know. But the truth of the matter is they're trying the impossible, which is get people not excited about OU football, but get excited about a football game that's not a real football game. Yeah. Let me tell you how serious they are. From what Lincoln said, they're actually going to, outside of probably hitting the quarterbacks, they're actually going to play a real game for a half. And that's better than some years. So, appreciate the football, I think, is going to be better than what we're used to. So for the football fan, maybe that's what they should have done and saying, hey, we're going to play real football for 2 quarters.
Yeah.
See how you like it in the spring.
Yeah, and the no goofy scoring system that we've got to keep track of defensive this and that equals a certain amount of points. That was always pretty darn confusing. But as you say, Barrett, there's actually going to be football that looks like football for a while. So it begs the question, let's talk about some actual football stuff here on the offensive side of the ball. Brooke, who should people be watching for? Is there a player that you are going to be focused in on offensively?
I think the easy answer would be one of the quarterbacks, but they're going to be easy to watch. I think if you're looking for someone who may have gone a little bit under the radar in the middle of the quarterback competition, to be running back TJ Pledger. He's an incoming freshman, early enrollee. He's a guy that was really highly recruited coming out of IMG Academy, and he's gotten pretty good reviews from the coaches so far this spring season. He was able to take reps with the ones in one of the earlier scrimmages. It's something that Jay Boulware does with all of the running backs, but he said that when Pledger got in there that he was playing just a really solid brand of football, and he was able to move the ball in ways that some of the other running backs weren't able to. So I would watch him, especially because you've got a really strong running back room coming back. Obviously, Abdul Adams leaving maybe opens up some space for a new guy to come in and get some playing time, but he would be my pick to kind of keep an eye on.
Barry, who are you going to be watching offensively?
You know what? Who intrigues me the most is Austin Kendall. I think the quarterback job belongs to Kyler Murray. I don't think it's a particularly close derby, but the odds are Austin Kendall's going to be needed at some point this season. The Sooners lived pretty large with Baker Mayfield. He never really was hurt. Had the 1 half against TCU and 15, I think it was, that he had to sit out. That's some nice fortune. That doesn't last long. At some point, the Sooners are going to have to go to a backup quarterback. I want to know how good Austin Kendall is. Will he be ready to answer the bell? We saw a year ago that Kyler Murray was a pretty good quarterback. We saw that in the spring game. He could deliver the ball. I want to see if Austin Kendall can do the same.
All right, let's flip to the defensive side. Brooke, who's worth watching on the defensive side of the ball?
Well, I'm going to go with another early enrollee. This one, Brendan Radley-Hiles. The coaches call him Buki. His mom calls him Buki. So we're going to call him either Brendan or Buki. Maybe just Radley-Hiles. That's a little confusing. But he is a defensive back, 5-star guy, committed during the Under Armour All-American Bowl. He's a guy that the OU coaches are really excited about. He can play anything from nickel to safety to corner. I think that they really like him at safety, and that's probably where he's going to end up fitting in. But he's someone that I've been really interested to see actually play, just because, Kerry Cooks has talked about him nonstop. Mike Stoops has talked about him nonstop. So I'd like to see what he can actually do. He's a smaller guy, has a thicker frame, not quite 6 feet. I think he's maybe around 5'9", 5'10". But he's someone to definitely keep an eye on and see what he can do, knowing that OU secondary has been a problem spot the last couple of years, and knowing that they need some new faces to step into some of these roles that were vacated by seniors.
Barry, who is it on defensive you'll be watching? I think a lot of people will be watching Radley-Hiles, but who defensively do you like to keep an eye on?
Yeah, the Sooners are going to have to find a pass rush from somewhere, and Okoronkwo, he's gone. Obo's gone. I don't know who they have to fill in for that kind of production at rushing the passer. I want to see Kenneth Mann. People keep talking good things about him. You know, he's a defensive end. Can he put pressure on the quarterback? But just anybody that can get in there and rush the quarterback. That's, to me, the biggest key on this defense. You got some linebackers returning, a lot of depth in the secondary, but that pass rush was mostly oboe last year. Where's that pass rush going to come from?
Yeah, definitely a lot of interesting questions on the defensive side of the ball. On the offensive side, one question before we get to our last bit here: do we have a sense of how this quarterback situation is going to break down? They're going to need the depth there, so they can't rush a decision and force somebody to transfer. We're not expecting any decision on this anytime soon, are we, Brooke?
No, that's not what Lincoln Riley's been saying. According to him, this is something that's going to come down to the fall. I think we'll probably have a good sense before game week of who the quarterback would be, whether that's official word or just a gut feeling or just something that you can tell from talking with guys in the program, seeing the after practice availabilities, any of the open practices. But I expect that it's something that we'll have to wait until the August camp starts to figure out exactly what that situation is there.
All right, lastly, all of Saturday, the entire thing. Finish this sentence, Barry. We'll start with you. Don't be surprised if.
Don't be surprised if the Bob Stoops statue presentation is incredibly short. At 10 a.m., it's going to be 10 a.m. It's going to be cold. It's going to be windy. On Friday night, they're having the gala for Stoops. He goes along with some of that stuff, but eventually he runs out of patience for that. By Saturday morning, he's not going to want to listen to a whole lot more about him. He's not going to have a lot to say by Saturday morning. The fans are going to be cold. I think it's a cool thing to unveil the statue for Bob Stoops, but I think it's going to be short.
So it's a little like if you get to the Easter egg hunt at 10:05, all the eggs might be gone. Don't be late. Okay, all right.
I might be early. If I was wanting to see it.
All right, Brooke, what about it? Don't be surprised if?
Don't be surprised if there's more surprises. That's really vague, but Lincoln Riley's been hyping this thing up since January, and then yesterday he sent a tweet with 2 eye emojis, which, as we all know, usually sounds some big alarm in the recruiting world, but this was about the spring game, saying that he had more things up his sleeve. Like I said, today they announced that fans were going to get to call plays. I think that there's going to be things, gimmicks, whatever, promotions that are coming up throughout the game that we don't know about beforehand. So I think OU is going to try to keep everybody on their toes. I would say get there early, watch the Trace Adkins concert, and then just kind of wait, see, watch, take everything in, and who knows, maybe you'll get to, I don't know, score a touchdown. They're going to do something crazy, I'm sure.
There might be touchdowns scored by fans, plays called. It's endless possibilities at this point, folks. OU spring game, again, Saturday afternoon, 1:15 is the approximate kickoff time after the concert and all the pregame stuff. We'll be there, so be sure to follow the best coverage team anywhere at newsok.com and every day in the Oklahoman.